Have you ever wondered how someone can reach almost 100 years old, still walk with confidence, still bend without fear, and still live without the constant ache that so many people think is just part of aging? Because today, I'm going to share something that blew my mind. It comes from Japan's oldest practicing doctor, a man who dedicated almost an entire century to medicine and longevity, and the exercise he recommended takes only 1 minute a day. 1 minute. And yet it can completely transform the strength of your hips, your balance, and even your independence as you get older. And if you give me just a little of your time, not only will you understand how this exercise works, you'll also understand why it works. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to do it safely and correctly. The idea that a single 1-minute exercise can transform hip strength may sound almost unbelievable at first, but when you understand where this recommendation comes from, it starts to make perfect sense. Japan's oldest practicing doctor, a man who spent nearly a century observing how the human body ages, didn't choose something complicated, intense, or fancy. He chose a movement that anyone can do, regardless of their age, fitness level, or mobility. The slow marching exercise he taught is deliberately simple because simplicity is what keeps people consistent. Seniors don't need routines that exhaust them or require special equipment. What they need is a movement that gently activates the muscles responsible for stability, balance, and strength without overwhelming their joints or causing fear. And that's exactly what this exercise offers. It is easy enough to start immediately, but powerful enough to create real change inside the body. When someone lifts one knee slowly, holds it, and lowers it with control, the standing hip is forced to stabilize the entire body. This stabilization recruits deep muscles that most people rarely use, especially those who spend a lot of time sitting. These small, often ignored muscles are the very ones responsible for keeping the pelvis aligned, protecting the spine, and helping the legs support the body during walking or standing. Over time, as people age, these muscles become weaker, not because of age itself, but because of inactivity. The older Japanese doctor understood this deeply. He knew that aging muscles needed gentle awakening, not aggression. That's why he emphasized this simple, slow marching drill. It teaches the hips to wake up, engage, and support the body again. The beauty of this exercise is that it doesn't require physical fitness to begin. A senior who feels unsteady can hold onto a chair. Someone with tight hips can lift their knees lower. Someone with poor balance can pause between reps. And yet every version still activates the stabilizing structures that keep the hips strong. Another powerful aspect of this 1-minute drill is neurological. The body isn't just building strength. It's retraining the brain to communicate with the muscles more efficiently. Every slow lift improves coordination. Every controlled lowering improves balance. Every second of standing on one leg reinforces the body's natural stability reflexes, which often diminish with age. This is why many seniors in Japan who practice this drill daily report improved walking patterns, better confidence in movement, and decreased hesitation when stepping over curbs or climbing stairs. The exercise doesn't just build the hips physically, it rebuilds trust between the mind and the body. And because the movement is so gentle, seniors can practice it every single day without strain. The consistency is what creates change. 1 minute a day may seem too small to matter, but strength built daily accumulates faster than strength built occasionally. That is why the doctor believed in this method so strongly. It gave elderly patients something realistic, achievable, and deeply effective, something that reminded their bodies how to move safely again, something that restored stability where weakness had taken over, something that allowed them to reclaim control over their own mobility without needing long workouts or specialized routines. Slow, controlled knee lifts may appear simple on the surface, but the real power of this movement lies in the deep, stabilizing muscles it activates inside the hips, muscles that most people don't even realize exist. When someone lifts a knee slowly and deliberately, the standing leg is forced to engage a network of support muscles that often remain dormant during everyday movements. These include the hip flexors, the gluteus medius, the small external rotators, and the lower fibers of the glutes, all of which are responsible for keeping the pelvis stable and aligned. As people age, these muscles weaken faster than others because they are rarely challenged in regular daily life. Walking doesn't fully activate them, standing doesn't strengthen them. Even climbing stairs tends to rely more on the quadriceps than on the deep hip stabilizers. That's why slow marching becomes such a powerful corrective exercise. It forces the body into a controlled, single-leg balance scenario, something most seniors haven't practiced in years. During that brief moment, when one foot is lifted, the muscles around the hip have to react instantly to keep the body upright. And this reaction is exactly what keeps the hips strong and functional. When hips weaken, everything around them suffers. The lower back tightens as it tries to compensate for instability. The knees become overloaded because they end up doing work the hips should be doing. Even the ankles begin to move in unhealthy patterns. But when the deep hip muscles are activated through slow marching, the entire chain of movement begins to correct itself. The pelvis becomes steadier, the spine aligns more naturally, and each step begins to feel more grounded. This is why people who practice this exercise consistently often report feeling lighter, more stable, and more confident in their movements. The exercise may last only a minute, but the effect on the nervous system is profound. Each slow lift teaches the brain to fire the correct stabilizing muscles again. These muscles are like old friends the body hasn't talked to in years. The marching movement reintroduces them, reconnecting the brain with the muscles that were designed to protect the joints and maintain balance. One of the most important benefits of this controlled knee lift is posture improvement. When the hip stabilizers strengthen, the pelvis no longer tilts forward or sideways as easily. This reduces pressure on the lower back, making it much easier to stand upright without forcing it. Good posture isn't about pulling the shoulders back. It's about having hips strong enough to hold the foundation of the body correctly. And that foundation gets rebuilt every time someone performs a slow, deliberate march. Another subtle but powerful benefit is the improvement in gait. Older adults often develop a shuffling walk, not because they want to, but because their hips don't feel stable enough to lift the leg confidently. Slow marching counteracts this by training the hips to lift and stabilize in a safe, controlled pattern. Over time, the body relearns how to take smoother, fuller steps. Even balance improves dramatically. During every slow march, the standing leg must make micro-adjustments to keep the body centered. These micro-adjustments strengthen not only the muscles, but also the sensory systems that help the brain understand where the body is in space. This is crucial because many falls happen not from big mistakes, but from small miscalculations the body can no longer correct quickly. Strengthening the deep hip stabilizers through slow marching gives the body the tools it needs to make those corrections again. All of this happens through a simple, slow, 1-minute movement that gently wakes up the hips, strengthens essential muscles, improves posture, sharpens balance, and restores the quality of movement that aging often steals piece by piece. Many people assume that losing independence in older age is simply a natural part of life, but in reality, one of the biggest triggers behind that decline is something far more specific: weak hips. When the hips lose strength, they stop supporting the body the way they were designed to, and this single issue quietly affects almost every movement a person makes. You can think of the hips as the center of balance and mobility. They stabilize the pelvis, guide the legs, and connect the upper and lower body. When they weaken, the entire system becomes shaky. Walking becomes harder because each step requires more effort. Standing up from a chair becomes uncertain because the muscles needed to lift the body aren't firing correctly. Turning around becomes risky because the core and hips can't stabilize fast enough. The loss doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in slowly, sometimes so slowly that people don't notice until they begin feeling hesitant, cautious, or afraid of falling. And that fear alone can accelerate decline, because when someone is afraid to move, they move even less, and the muscles weaken even more. Fall risk increases dramatically when the hips can't stabilize the body. A small trip, a misplaced step, or a moment of imbalance that a stronger person would easily recover from can suddenly become a dangerous fall for someone with weak hips. Most seniors who fall don't fall because their legs give out. They fall because their hips cannot adjust quickly enough to keep them steady. Strong hips act like shock absorbers and stabilizers. They react instantly when the ground shifts, when someone turns, or when weight moves from one leg to the other. Weak hips, however, delay that reaction, and even a split-second delay can be the difference between a safe recovery and a dangerous fall. This is why strengthening the hips is not just about fitness. It is about protecting independence, mobility, and long-term confidence. When someone begins rebuilding hip strength, even with a simple exercise like slow marching, their body starts responding in ways that go far beyond muscle growth. Their walking pattern becomes smoother, their posture improves, their steps become more deliberate, and they feel more secure in their movements. This new stability translates directly into daily life. Tasks that used to feel intimidating, such as stepping into a bathtub, climbing stairs, or walking across uneven ground, begin to feel safer and more manageable. And as confidence grows, so does activity level. People who feel stable move more. People who move more stay strong. It becomes a positive cycle that rebuilds independence rather than diminishing it. Another often overlooked point is that hip strength affects the entire balance system. The inner ear, the eyes, the joints, and the nervous system all work together to keep someone upright. But even if those systems are working perfectly, weak hips can still cause instability because the body doesn't have a strong enough base of support. Rebuilding hip strength gives the balance system something solid to rely on. It becomes easier to pivot without losing control, easier to take a long step without wobbling, easier to stand on one leg briefly without panicking. All of these small improvements add up to a huge change in quality of life. Ultimately, weak hips are not just a physical problem, they are an independence problem, a confidence problem, and a safety problem. Rebuilding hip strength becomes one of the most important steps in preventing decline and restoring the freedom to move without hesitation or fear. The idea that consistency matters more than intensity can feel almost too simple. Yet, when it comes to rebuilding strength, especially hip strength in older adults, it is one of the most powerful truths. Many people think they need long workouts, complicated routines, or heavy exercises to see real improvement. But the body responds far more positively to small, steady, daily habits than to anything intense done occasionally. Muscles don't strengthen just because they are pushed hard. They strengthen because they are used regularly. This is why a 1-minute exercise done every day can create changes that a 20-minute workout done once a week could never achieve. The hips, in particular, thrive on consistency. Every day you perform slow, controlled knee lifts. You wake up the stabilizing muscles around your pelvis. You remind them to activate. You teach them to hold your weight. You help them relearn their job. And the more often you ask these muscles to help you balance and support your body, the faster they rebuild themselves. When seniors perform this simple marching drill daily, something interesting happens inside the body. At first, the muscles may feel weak or shaky because they are not used to doing this job. But within a few days of consistent practice, the brain begins improving its communication with the hips. The body becomes more aware of its alignment. the stabilizing muscles begin firing more naturally. Blood circulation increases around the joints, helping them feel looser and more supported. These small internal shifts may feel subtle at first, but together they build momentum. And because the exercise is so short and gentle, it doesn't trigger fatigue, joint strain, or soreness, meaning the person is far more likely to repeat it the next day. This is exactly why consistency wins. A routine someone can actually maintain becomes far more effective than a tough routine they quit after 2 days. Many seniors begin noticing improvements within 2 weeks of daily practice. Their steps feel smoother. Standing up feels less stressful. Turning around feels more controlled. They become aware that they're not wobbling as much. And these changes are not happening because of intense effort. They're happening because the hips are finally receiving the daily stimulus they need to rebuild strength. By 4 weeks, the improvement often becomes noticeable to others. Friends might mention that they're walking faster or moving with more confidence. Family members might comment that they seem steadier on their feet. And by 8 to 12 weeks, daily 1-minute marching can create a transformation that feels almost like turning back the clock. The hips feel stronger, the lower back feels lighter, the legs feel more coordinated. The whole body begins to move as a unified system again, instead of a collection of struggling parts. What makes daily practice even more effective is that it doesn't just build physical strength, it builds confidence. Every time someone completes that 1 minute, they reinforce a message to themselves: I can do this. That psychological shift is huge. Seniors who feel capable move more. Seniors who move more stay stronger. And the cycle continues to build. On the other hand, intense workouts often do the opposite. They create fear, fatigue, or discouragement, which leads to skipping days, which leads to losing progress. A gentle, achievable exercise avoids all of that. It becomes part of a routine, like brushing teeth, something done daily without resistance or stress. This is why even a small habit can spark big changes. The body doesn't care how dramatic a workout looks. It cares how often the muscles are activated. A minute a day may sound small, but when repeated consistently, it becomes a powerful force for rebuilding strength, restoring balance, and improving movement in ways that short-lived bursts of intensity never could. The phrase, dignity of movement, may sound poetic, but for seniors, it represents something deeply practical and incredibly meaningful. It is the ability to move without fear, without hesitation, and without feeling limited by the body. When hip strength declines, this dignity begins to fade. Movements that once felt natural begin to feel uncertain. Simple tasks, like stepping over a threshold, turning around, or rising from a chair, start requiring effort, caution, and sometimes even assistance. But rebuilding hip strength through a simple daily exercise can restore that dignity, giving seniors back the freedom to move confidently and independently. The 1-minute slow marching exercise achieves this because it strengthens not just the hips, but the foundation of stability the entire body depends on. When the hips are strong, posture improves automatically because the pelvis can stay aligned without effort. The legs feel more reliable, the joints feel more supported, and the whole body becomes more coordinated. Independence is one of the most important aspects of aging well. Losing independence doesn't usually happen suddenly. It happens gradually when small. Physical abilities are lost one by one. First, someone avoids stairs because their legs feel unstable. Then they stop walking outside because they fear uneven ground. Then they begin holding onto furniture around the house because they don't trust their balance. Each of these steps takes away a bit of freedom, but strong hips can halt this decline and even reverse it. When seniors feel their bodies responding, when they feel more stable each week, when they notice they can lift their feet higher or walk a bit faster, a sense of empowerment returns. This shift in confidence often matters just as much as the physical improvement itself. Another important aspect is the sense of control that hip strengthening provides. Aging can sometimes make people feel like their bodies dictate their lives. Pain dictates their choices, weakness dictates their movements, and fear dictates their routines. But a simple exercise that delivers real results reminds them that they still have influence over their physical well-being. They can take action, they can improve, they can strengthen what was weak and stabilize what was uncertain. This restored sense of control is a huge emotional victory. It increases motivation, lifts mood, and reduces the anxiety many seniors feel about falling or losing mobility. In Japan, where seniors practice gentle daily routines, there is a strong cultural belief that movement itself is a form of respect for the body. The 1-minute march is often taught not as a workout, but as a daily ritual of care. It keeps the hips alive, the joints lubricated, the nerves responsive, and the muscles engaged. When seniors perform this exercise consistently, they begin to feel more in tune with their bodies. They become more aware of how they stand, how they walk, and how they carry themselves. This awareness translates into smoother, more confident movement throughout the day. Over time, the cumulative effect of daily hip activation becomes unmistakable. Walking, distances increase. Balance improves. Tasks that once felt intimidating begin to feel easy again. There is a sense of freedom in knowing that your body can support you without fear of giving out. And that freedom is at the heart of the dignity of movement. It means waking up every day feeling capable. It means moving without hesitation. It means maintaining independence and living life on your own terms. And all of that becomes possible because of a simple, consistent practice that strengthens the hips, restores stability, and reinforces the belief that aging does not have to be the end of mobility. It can be the beginning of a stronger, more confident chapter in life.